we never achieve anything by ourselves.
Wow,
My career path has been paved with a lot of mentoring, with a lot of people who helped me along the way.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
Making money out of nothing at all. I know that air supply, Jackie, you being a musician, making love out of nothing at all,
Yeah.
but making money out of nothing at all.
Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to welcome Connie Shepherd to our podcast today. Connie has built an illustrious career in banking, finance, and accounting. Her professional journey is truly inspiring. If we were to list all of her accomplishment and title, that alone might take up the entire episode. So instead, I will let our conversation reveal the story behind her remarkable career. Thanks to be here, Connie.
Jackie, thank you so much. I feel very unworthy to be here. And thank you for that very awe-inspiring introduction. I'm just trying to see if there's another Connie Shepherd in the room.
No. Well, the funny thing is, actually every single guest say the same thing. They feel like, I feel I'm not worthy to be talk about my career. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think, for example, for your career, I truly find inspiring, particularly for the next generation. I really feel like they need to hear your career, how it all started even as a teenager. Which is a good segue to my first question, because your career all began back when you were grade 9. That would be like 14 years old around, right?
15.
15.
Yes.
With a tennis racket advertisement,
Yes.
of all things,
Yes.
that related to business.
Yes.
And can you tell us that story?
Sure, a very, very short story. So it was grade 9. I went to a high school called John Oliver in Vancouver, and we had tennis courts. So I played tennis during my summertime with my friends after school and during the summertime. And I had a tennis racket, and it was a 1999 Chris Evert Lloyd tennis racket. And everybody around me had Donnays and, Dunlop Air Maxes or Max tennis rackets, graphite. And I wanted a good tennis racket. And I had a 1999 tennis racket. Now, one day, the Hudson Bay had a flyer out there, Jackie, and it had advertised this tennis racket from Chris Evert Lloyd, but it wasn't the 1999 racket that I had. It was the $79.99 racket. That was the elite wood frame catgut racket that was there. And it had a price on there that says $19.99. So I rushed down there to the Hudson's Bay and said, I want that racket. And they gave it to me. And I said, and I took it to the cash register, and they said it was the normal price, $79. I said, but here's your flyer. Here's the picture of the racket. And it says $19.99. And they said, go away, it's the misprint. Well, I didn't believe them. And I was so intent, Jackie, on getting it. And I said to myself, okay, if I can get this racket, the $74.99 racket for $19.99, I might have a chance in business and in negotiations. And so I went through the steps of escalating that from the cashier to the department manager, who still wouldn't give me the racket. And then I called the Better Business Bureau at the payphone. That was in the days of payphone, right? They still existed back then, which is a testament to how old I am. And the Better Business Bureau suggested I talk to the store manager. And his picture was in everywhere throughout the stores. And so I asked to speak to the store manager. I showed him the flyer, and I says, aren't you advertising this? Is this not false advertising if you're not selling this racket at this price? So I don't know if there is, I believe every company probably has some small print, but the gentleman at the time was so generous with me and took me up to the sporting goods and gave me that $70x racket for $19.99. And so that gave me an impetus to continue on in a career where I thought negotiations or looking for a deal or looking for a bargain may have some role to play in my future.
Something related to business anyway.
Yes.
Something related to business and negotiation or things like that. Yes. So fast forward a few years, your path into banking started with a computer class, which is also kind of unusual for me to think of it.
Yes.
And Can you explain a little bit what was that class about and why you want to join it?
Well, it was actually it wasn't a class in as much it was an afternoon activity
Oh.
after school. So there was no mandatory presence. You didn't need to. It was extracurricular activity, and it was called Career Science Career Prep. I was in grade 11, and I had a super phenomenal head of math in our high school, Jack Schellenberg, the late Jack Schellenberg. And he developed a co-op or a career prep program for grade 11 and grade 12 students. And you entered this program after 3 o'clock, and it was twice a week, and you went to learn word processing, spreadsheets, and databases. Now, this was in the early 1980s. So we're talking about PET computers, Commodore computers, for those of you who know, for those of you who have parents or grandparents who may know what those are. These are the first generation personal computers. And so we learned it. So what gave me the impetus, Jackie, was very simple. I had a computer at that time. I had an Apple II Plus clone at home at that time. But also because I was, the class was about 15 people, 2 girls, of which I was one, and 13 boys. All very smart, all on the honor roll, and I think 1 or 2 of them may have been my high school crushes. So there you go. In
That's
truth
why.
and in honesty, there you go.
Okay. So you still use floppy disk. I think that would be what that is, right?
Yes, and they were verbatim. They were this hot pink fuchsia cover with verbatim disk, and you'd had to swap out your disk, program disk on one hand, data disk on the other, and you still had to use DOS commands like init, to initialize disks.
You type all the you just type the command and all of that,
Yes.
right? Okay. But anyway, so it's a career co-op class. So how did that computer class lead you toward to banking?
Yeah. Well, I did need to step back one little step, and it was during in my high school. There's a phenomenal program called Junior Achievement, and Junior Achievement brought in professionals into the high school environment so that they could teach students about business and business concepts. Now the same program is in elementary schools where a professional goes in and teaches business concepts to students. At that time, my Junior Achievement advisor was a banker, and he demonstrated to us in our class the role of a bank. You give pencils to the intermediary, and there are some other people who need pencils on the other side. But by being the intermediary, you just make money by being able to facilitate a transaction. So that's what really banks do, right?
Yes.
They take money from you and charge you an interest rate, and I need the money and I borrow from the bank and they charge me even more interest rate. And they make money, and I thought, how cool is that? Making money out of nothing at all. I know that Air Supply, Jackie, you being a musician, making love out of nothing at all, but making money out of nothing at all was truly It's truly an amazing thing. So I wanted to be a banker. So with this career prep, being one of 2 girls, Mr. Schellenberg gave us, the 2 girls, the first choice in choosing our practicum. And right on that list was Bank of British Columbia. And so I chose the Bank of BC to do my co-op or my practicum, my work experience, actually. I think that's the right term.
I really want you to share this story, actually, when you were working in Bank of BC,
Yes.
well, later on actually acquired by
Yes.
HSBC.
Yes.
So when I think it's the secretary was like not there, she
Yes.
need to go for holiday,
Yes.
but then you take over her position for like maybe 2 or 3 weeks or something
Yes,
like
that's
that.
right. Vacation relief on the
Yeah.
first time. Yeah, so I really have to credit, again, my phenomenal teachers at John Oliver. I had a high school counselor, Diana Spears, and she used to give us great career advice. She says, take the initiative, be proactive, and demonstrate your enthusiasm, and write letters of thanks and introductions, etc., when you're in that business environment. So I was at the Bank of British Columbia for 1 week for work experience, and during the Wednesday, I was supposed to sit down with the secretary, to observe her with working with word processing. Now, this is at the very early stages of word processing where most people were still using typewriters. And so already in my career prep, I had learned how to use word processing software. So before I sat down with her, I took Mrs. Spears' advice and asked for the manual. Can I read it the night before I sit down with you? So I took this binder, a 3-inch binder home, read it, came back the next day and sat with her. And as she was showing what she was doing, I was going and asked me if I would like to try. I had already read the manual and I was kind of whipping along on the word processor. And so it was a very new piece of equipment that not everybody had the skills at the time. So when they observed that I was able to catch on, they asked me, well, can you fill in for Brenda when she goes on holidays? And it was like, sure, okay. And they said, we can't pay you this full rate. We usually pay, the bank's in a financial difficulty. Everybody's just taking 10% pay cuts. The job usually pays $8.40 an hour. And can you take that for $7.60 an hour? And I looked at them, I said, all my friends are making $3 an hour at McDonald's. So yes, absolutely. So that was the entree for me. That was the first time.
And I think you really take on this idea of take initiative, throughout your career. And I think that really make a difference in many different areas as you move on to HSBC and to build a career in banking. I think we will definitely talk about that as we go on. Now, then move forward further, and during the university time, which is also very interesting, you continue to have opportunity to work at the Bank of BC, and that time still Bank of BC, as a branch teller.
Yes.
So how did that opportunity come about?
Well, going back to my work experience, Jackie, because it was computer, they had actually placed us at the data center. The data center is where all the computer processing happens for a bank, where checks get cleared, where interest get calculated, and you had these big IBM mainframes or Burrow mainframes at the time. And so the data center was starting to change and to change its operations, where the bank was actually decentralizing a lot of its data entry functions into the branches. And so they were offering a lot of their staff at the data center roles training in the branch, and then so that they could help them transition into a different place of work and a different function. And people were being trained in the branch, and I said, can I be a part of that too? So this is the second year. So the first year I worked for several weeks with the bank, and the second year they asked me to come back to do something similar. And that was when the training happened. And I said, I would love to do that. Can I volunteer to take that training? So they placed me at the Richmond branch of HSBC, or Hong Kong Bank at the time, on number 3 in Park. And I offered my services for 8 weeks to learn to be trained as a teller for free, right? And that's part of co-op. That's what co-op was all about. And I had to sign waivers for insurance purposes, etc. And I learned to be a teller. So after my 8 weeks was through, the administration officer, Sylvia Bull at the time, asked me, would you like to continue on for a part-time job? I was going through school, and it was like, sure, why? I didn't have to look for a job. I was asked, would you like a job? What can I do? How can I serve? So it was absolutely,
Wow, but that was, I think that will really help out too, right? For the university time, you're already working.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then you also have experience in banking already, I think. Now, speaking of university, what was your experience like as a student?
Horrible. I'm just going to tell you, it was horrible. So throughout high school, I excelled in high school. I excelled in high school, honor roll student, etc. And I really did not work very hard in high school. And that's just the truth, because I've been very blessed in my life. God has given me a phenomenal memory. So in high school, to do well in school, there's a certain amount of applying logic and application, but it was really a lot of memorization and still memorizing formulas, memorizing periodic tables, memorizing geography facts. And then at university, I really floundered because I couldn't make that transition from being fed to having to learn and go out. And so I really struggled, and I really gravitated not towards theory, but towards practical experience. And if there was one piece of advice, my husband, who's a prof, always says to me, what would you do differently if you had to do it again? And I said, I would have chosen a program. I wouldn't have gone to UBC directly from high school. I would have chosen a program where there was a lot more practical elements to it so that I could learn and practice at the same time. And that's not for everybody, but it's for my learning style. So when I did horrible, my first accounting course in commerce, horrible, like barely make it through, like barely pass, I would say, like 60 maybe, like, you know, if 50 was passed, I probably did 60, but it wasn't until I went back to do the CMA program or the CGA program that, I flourished, because I learned that I learned best by doing. So I practiced a lot of examples, did a lot of questions, rather than try to memorize the theory behind the book. Now, once I had the tangible or the practical experience, then going back to the theory makes so much sense. Yeah. So today, I work with a client and I do accounting standards, which is like totally dry, boring theory stuff. And my sincere apologies to all the lawyers and the tax accountants and all those people who love that aspect of it. But I've grown to love it because I haven't seen it and knowing how it's applied, it makes it so much more relevant. And relevance is really key sometimes in learning.
But in a sense, you also perhaps like practicing accounting or seeing how it's done, because you were also a teller, right, at the time. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe at that time, you know, if you want to have CMA or like this kind of title at the back of your names, you have to finish a university degree or something, like rather than just go to take the exam, right? Is that correct?
Well, that was the old program. So the old program did not require a university degree in order to proceed. The program has evolved and changed. Very much similarly, like if you take a look in the 50s and 60s, there were a lot of people who didn't finish high school and still did extremely well in life and had good jobs, etc. And so as time evolved, education evolves, our level of knowledge changes. So I was part of an old program where I wasn't required to have a university degree to obtain my designation. No longer the truth, right?
Yes.
So it's foundational for so many different reasons, the skills that you acquire, the skills that you actually need. And so today, if I didn't have my designation, I would have to have my bachelor's degree first to earn that designation.
So nowadays it's actually different. Nowadays you have to have a degree and then you can have your designation. By the way, so the CMA now becomes CPA.
Yes,
basically,
that's right.
You know, so you have CMA and CGA, I think, at that time.
Yes. So once upon a time, I want to say about 10 years ago, the merger happened between the three accounting bodies in Canada, between the CGA, CMA, and CPA. So certified general accountants, certified management accountants, and then chartered accountants. And so the bodies came together in British Columbia. We merged. We kept our legacy designation, so we were all CPAs. My husband's a CPA, CGA. I'm a CPA, CMA, and now I think we're almost at that point where we eliminate all legacy if we choose to. Yeah.
Okay, so basically you're a CPA now.
Yeah.
So the aspect that you were in the bank really helps you, you know, you practice first, basically, and then you go to like take the CMA now. So that was really help you. Now, moving forward again, now HSBC is full blown and they have like acquired Bank of BC. You know, I think they started their career, their business in North America, I think at that point. And at one point, you took on a role of manager of financial reporting.
Yes.
a position that, if I remember correctly, is about a project that is with internal control or something.
Yes.
And I think that position wasn't exactly popular. But why did you put your name forward?
Well, I think there's something. So I think being a teller while I was going through post-secondary institution in, let's say, 1987 to becoming the manager of corporate reporting in 2002. I mean, there's a big gap.
Yeah.
So in the between, I think it's really important for me to talk about the fact that I had the opportunity to move out of a branch into the controller's department to become an accounting clerk, to become an accountant, a financial analyst, a senior accountant, a manager of finance, before I became the manager of corporate reporting. So I mean, there was a progression, right?
Yeah. So you started as a controller too, basically.
I started in the controller's department. So I started as someone who was in a clerical position, learning debits and credits. You know, there's a great rap song for all those young people who are looking for a career in accounting. It's called "Debits on the debits on the left, credits on the right, debit left, credit right." It's a rap song, but but really learning debits on the left and credits on the right, and understanding of balance sheet and understanding income statement and doing the fundamentals is really key in building up the fundamentals. I took on a role. Yes, I took on a role as manager of corporate accounting. I had been working as the manager of finance at one of the subsidiaries of HSBC Asset Management, where the mutual funds and the fund management function or wealth management was manufactured or created for our clients, packaged under mutual funds, etc. And I came back to the bank, and the bank has multi-layers. So in Canada, the HSBC Bank was never publicly listed in Canada. It is owned by Bank USA, Bank in London, HSBC PLC. So many tiers. So we're a publicly traded company. And one of the reasons why the job wasn't exactly a popular role was that during quarter ends, in any public company, it doesn't matter if it's HSBC or whether you're with Finning or whether you're with Northbridge. Anytime you're in a publicly traded company, you have regulatory deadlines, and those are pretty tight. Yeah. So you need to get out your results to your shareholders under your filing deadlines. And so when you have that many tiers, your deadlines are very tight. Yeah. And then there's a little bit more latitude up top. And not only are your deadlines tight, you have to report in Canadian, and not just dollars, but Canadian GAAP or Canadian accounting standards. But your next level parent may be US, and it's part of your responsibility to convert your results into US GAAP. But you also report to group, which was at the time, still I think UK GAAP, and we were going through transition to IFRS. So you had to learn Canadian, US, and IFRS. Huge body of things are similar, but there are also nuances that are different. Yeah. So that was part of the challenge of the role, and that what it meant is that there's long hours during quarter ends, and quarter ends started every January, April, July, and October, which was the day after September, June, March, and so forth. Long hours. We would get in at 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning, and sometimes we don't go home until 10. And during filing deadlines, when we're trying to make something, there have been nights where I've been there until 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh, wow. Right? So this is before the times of remote and hybrid.
That's right.
Before VPN. I think we just had VPN at time. Yeah. So the team had pretty long hours. It was not the most popular job. No.
At JW's Music Studio, we offer more than just music lessons. We also nurture future leaders in music education. Our piano teacher apprenticeship program is an initiative designed for advanced piano students who are ready to take the next step from student to teacher. This program provides a structured, supportive pathway into music teaching. Participants are mentored through every stage, from interview and training to guided teaching and independent lessons, all while being compensated as they grow. Whether your teen is exploring a career in teaching or simply wants to deepen their connection to music, this program offers real-world skills in a safe, encouraging environment. Contact us today at jnwmusic@yahoo.ca. But then why you took on to this role though, actually? Why you have a motivation to take on this opportunity?
Well, if nobody wanted it, there's no competition. Doing somebody that nobody wants to do, there's only one way to go, Jackie. You know, I'm an eternal optimist. So if you are in the worst possible situation, if nobody wants to go in there and it's the worst possible, anything you do moves the needle, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So you have to look on the bright side of things, right? So it was a promotion, which is good.
Yeah.
It was a bigger role, which is good. And if nobody wanted to do it, well, how tough is the competition?
But did you learn something new in this?
Absolutely. And, you know, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm almost 60, and I've had a 40-plus year career in business and banking.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't matter how old you are.
Yeah.
I'm still learning. I've just been brought on by a client to help their organization. And for me, every day going into work, even though I know debits and credits and financial statements and how to be a controller and how to navigate FP&A and budgeting, etc., every day is still a learning experience. And as long as we're breathing, as long as God gives us that breath of life, we are always a student learning about life, learning about different aspects of the business, how to do things. I learned the other day that human resources has been replaced by people and culture. And sometimes terminology makes a huge difference in how an organization approached their people, the human capital aspect of things. Right?
Oh, yeah, that's very true. And interestingly, actually, because you took on this position, actually lead you to the next even bigger project that you were going to do. Because you became vice president and senior manager of corporate accounting and reporting at USA.
Yes.
Which was connected to a major financial transformation program at HSBC. I think you mentioned that was like in 2003 or something like that?
Yeah, 2003, 2004. So when I took on the role of manager of corporate accounting and reporting at HSBC Bank Canada, one of the biggest projects that was, it was an internal control project. It was making sure that every general ledger account was signed off or balanced, and there was a process in doing that, or one area of general ledger account. Now, we had over 220 branches. We had at least 50 head office departments. And so to develop a framework to make sure that everybody has signed off, it's not like me and my team had to do the reconciliation, but we had to have a process to ensure that the 220 branches and all of the departments where their balance sheet general ledger, their general ledgers had a reconciliation process. And that was really a special project within my mandate. And so when I executed, or when I put together the framework and executed that on that project, I was actually nominated for the President's Award for Performance Excellence at HSBC. It was, I think, the third or fourth year that HSBC started the President's Award for Performance Excellence. I was in one of the earlier cohorts, I think third or fourth year, and it was really the springboard that gave me the opportunity to go on to an international assignment, which was to Buffalo. So I went to Buffalo, New York, as part of an international team. HSBC at the time was doing a finance transformation program, and it was huge. For the first year in 2003, major countries and stakeholders were all in UK, defining the requirements of the program and the objectives and the requirements of the program. And to summarize, it was to make month-end close just another day, right? So that people won't be afraid of jobs taking on quarter end.
Yeah, that's true.
having horrific times and you can't recruit and retain people, right?
Yeah.
So they were very visionary in with their vision and their mandate and their mission. And they had chosen HSBC Bank USA as their pilot site. And my CFO, when I was manager of corporate accounting in Vancouver, had become the CFO over in Bank USA. And I wanted to do an international assignment. And so I was asked, what would I like to do? I said, I'd like to go to Bermuda and go do banking there. And, Roger McGregor said to me, how about Buffalo? And I said, Bermuda, Buffalo. Bermuda started with B and it ends with a vowel and it has 3 syllables. Buffalo started with B, has 3 syllables and ended in a vowel. Sure, what the heck? Weather aside, climate aside, but it was the most, it was such a phenomenal experience.
Yeah.
We were there. It was the core team in Buffalo. We had an international team like myself. I was the only one from Canada. There were 3 guys from Mexico. We had people from India. It was truly an international endeavor, and definitely UK was helping and driving because the requirements were doing this, and were being defined in the UK on what needs to be done. It was really taking very manual process or taking disparate source systems and building an accounting engine for this particular program. So finance transformation program could look different from organization to organization, but for the one that we were on, and we called it Project Eagle, for the project, the idea was to eliminate a lot of the manual work. So at that time, Bank USA had a lot of mergers and acquisitions. They had a lot of source systems, like mortgage system was different from the deposit system was different from, and they needed a way to bring all the source systems together, but also to make sure that the manual work that we do for all the different layers of reporting was fairly seamless, and make sure that people aren't doing non-value added work to simplify things, right? And so it entailed using systems, it entailed re-engineering processes, bringing new tools, up-to-date tools, investment in tools to automate work and to make people's life easier, to bring everything into the 21st century, because we had just crossed over the new century at that time.
Oh wow! Oh yeah, that's
right. 2004. Yeah.
Sounds audacious, really.
Yeah.
Because
it was an amazing experience.
Yeah,
amazing.
because I think even in North America, they must have a lot of subsidiary and all that thing, right? They have like a lot of different things happening.
I'm not sure if I remember correctly, we had 2,500 legal entities. So.
Wow.
My role was to be the functional lead for financial reporting, and eventually I became the functional lead for a product called S-Space, Hyperion S-Space. But really, the consolidation structure was 2,500 legal entities with I think it was 9 functional currencies and 2 or 3 reporting currencies within that mix to build that structure in PeopleSoft.
You once said that this experience is life-changing for you. What makes it such a turning point for you?
I think there's two levels. I think there's a very personal level and there is a professional level. I've led a very sheltered life. And I spent most of my life in Vancouver, only child, went to the same elementary school throughout, same high school, and then went on to a post-secondary institute with all the friends that I grew up with in the same high school. And, worked one employer, HSBC Bank Canada, or Bank of BC that became HSBC Bank Canada. So I've never seen anything outside of my little box, my little world. And to move away, to live in another country by myself, into Buffalo, New York, I know it's not, it's not the difference between moving from Canada to, say, Uruguay, but it's still, it was a very new, but I was exposed to a lot of cultures because it was an international team. And so from a professional perspective, living in middle America in Buffalo, New York, I also had a development team that I worked with in Chicago, New York, Jackie. So I got to travel to Chicago a lot. And Mount Prospect and Mettawa in Chicago, and then in New York was my internal customers. So I got a chance to work with the team in Manhattan quite a bit.
Oh, wow.
So that's why, from a professional perspective, and you understand, you kept on using the word audacious. I love that because it was a huge endeavor, and not many organizations could possibly afford to undertake a project of that size. So to do it, we worked with IBM, we worked with PwC, we worked with so many different vendors that it was just a monumental endeavor. And so the experience, the exposure, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And so that's why when I said it changed, like professionally, it just blew my mind, but it blew open so many different opportunities for me professionally. But on a personal level, it was way more important. So at that time, I had already been in the Catholic Church. I was brought into the Catholic Church, received into the Catholic Church in 2003. I was baptized at 18 in the United Church of Canada, and then left the church in my early young adult life, and then came back to the church eventually in my late 20s. And in 2003, I became Roman Catholic. And when I was actually in Buffalo, New York, and it was after a year of being there, I thought I heard the Lord calling me to perhaps discern religious life as a nun. Here I am on the most important professional assignment of my career, and I'm thinking the Lord is calling me. So on a personal level, it was discerning that call, that religious call. And it was, the Lord provided a spiritual director, Father Richard Davis, who was the superior at the friary at the Franciscan University of Steubenville. And he's actually a Buffalonian. And he was in Buffalo at the same time I was in Buffalo at a particular basilica. And I had met him, and he became my spiritual director. Long story, another time. But so for me, it was life-changing from a professional perspective, but also from a spiritual, faith-filled perspective, because it was during that time, whether I was discerning God's call, that I learned about disciplined prayer life, about regular spiritual development, and the importance of that. It was also there that I met a priest from Poland that helped shape and developed my current spiritual life, right? So that becomes foundational in everything that I do, whether it's my work or whether it's my marriage, and how I approach my marriage, how I approach every aspect of my life. That's why Buffalo is so important.
Wow. Oh, okay. But to backtrack a little bit, though, why do you want to go to Bermuda? I think that's
Oh, it's the sunshine.
it's like holiday.
It's like a holiday. There you go. You know, all the offshore bankings and insurance captives are based in Bermuda and Bahamas, right? So it was like, hey, if you could go anywhere, where would you go? Well, why not somewhere sunny, right? The Vancouver November rain.
Yeah, that's true.
There you go.
That's true. So I guess, it's quite a big difference between the two, actually.
Yes.
But I'm glad you have chose Buffalo, and I think that really makes a lot of differences. So eventually you return to Canada and become, obviously this project ended, I would imagine, and you came back to Canada and become the head of planning and analysis for finance, I think.
Yes.
By that point, you had built a tremendous experience already, like what you said, because of the last project that you were involved, a lot of professional opportunity come to your door, and you have achieved so much. You were the presidential award receiver, you have nominated for that and all that. So you have achieved so much within HSBC already.
So Jackie, I'm going to correct you. Okay, you said you have achieved so much. We never achieve anything by ourselves. So my career path has been paved with a lot of mentoring, with a lot of people who helped me along the way.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? They've provided the opportunity, and I walk through those doors, but they open the doors for me, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to really acknowledge all those individuals. I can't, I may not remember every one of them by name, but I can certainly tell you it's every manager that I have had, every CFO who has taken an interest, because every CFO I served when I worked for HSBC, the organization, have had a huge passion for developing their staff. Every one of them.
Oh, wow.
And truly amazing, amazing men. So at Bank Canada, John Mould, Graham McIsaac, Roger McGregor, these were men who were phenomenal. And, my mentor, Stuart Wu, who became my boss after I left HSBC as well, because Stuart had hired me. And these were tremendous people who really invested in their people. Yeah.
So that make a big difference.
It made a huge difference, yeah.
But then when you reach to this point of your career, how did you feel? This episode is brought to you by JW Music Studio. We offer piano and guitar lesson in both group and private setting. Group lesson is a great way to ignite a student's musical interest. It offers engaging activities that will reinforce specific skill sets. Ensemble playing will strengthen their rhythmic feeling and listening abilities. Most of all, they will experience the joy of making music with others. Contact us to find out our available schedule.
How did I feel?
How did you feel?
Oh, wow. Jackie, I have to tell you that my one ambition in life was to go on an international assignment.
Yeah.
So when I went on to my international assignment, it was like, oh my goodness, I felt tremendously grateful, thankful, blessed that I was able to realize this particular dream. To be honest, I didn't have a goal beyond that. It sounds terrible. That was my goal. It was like, okay, what do I need now? But it was also a really important turning point because, like I mentioned, when I was on assignment in Buffalo, a new door opened for me. And it wasn't just about my career. It was about my spiritual life. And understanding God's will for my life became very important. And so even how I came back to Vancouver, when I left Vancouver in 2004, on December 18th, 2004, I didn't ever expect to come back. I was hoping that I would just go on with HSBC and do the international, and be placed in continuous assignments. Yeah. But what brought me back again was my spiritual life, because I had close to 80-year-old mother here in Vancouver who's by herself. I'm an only child, right? So what is God calling me to do? What is God calling me to do? He's asking me to look after my mother, just like all the people in the New Testament. God, and look at Ruth, how Ruth took care of her mother-in-law Naomi, right? And so I was called to look after my mother, so I came home. It wasn't my first choice, but I was really blessed to have the opportunity to come home.
Oh, wow! So you feel grateful?
Very grateful.
But you didn't feel like, oh man, I finally achieved it. None of those really.
Oh, I'm sure I did. I'm sure I did. One of the things that, Jackie, I can actually say to you now that I'm 60, right? And it's truth. And the truth is, the church is a hospital for sinners, not a museum for saints. Sure. Of which I am one of the greatest, okay? So me and my sins and my ego, right? Yeah. So I'm sure it's, if not overtly, it is always underlined. Yeah. We are human beings. We are immersed. We have been so blessed to be washed by the blood of Jesus Christ
Yeah.
because we have this thing called original sin, right? And so really, we have what Bishop Robert Barron talks about as the ego drama of our lives, right? We expect God to revolve around us, not us revolve God. So there's always that. It's always a fight. It's always a fight. Every day is a battle, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it's like, Lord, have mercy on me.
Yes,
always.
Sure. But then eventually, and I think I did mention it. Yes. So when you were in US, you were a VP. And when you come back to Vancouver, you were like an assistant vice president as well. So quite a high position.
Yes.
You left actually at that point. By
Yes,
that point,
I
you
did.
decided to okay, I want to leave HSBC all behind.
Well, it wasn't that simple.
Okay.
It was the fact that my husband had proposed to me. So I was in my early 40s at the time. Never had a really serious relationship where I would ever think about marriage. I was in my 40s, and my husband and I had a long distance relationship. And my husband was teaching college in Prince George.
Oh.
So my husband proposed to me on Easter Vigil of 2009. No, I came back in 2008. It was Easter Vigil of 2009. My husband proposed to me. And so the choice was, he's in Prince George. Well, again, very biblical, right? I go where my husband is. So so I resigned. My husband had a bout of illness in the spring of 2009, my fiance at the time. And he was sick with the flu for 2 weeks, and I flew up there. And he was really, really sick. And so when we flew home, I brought him back onto a plane into Vancouver so that his parents could look after him. His parents are in Richmond. It wasn't even a question. It was like, okay, it's too important. Marriage is a vocation. It's fundamental. A career, okay, it's a career. It's a job. And God certainly gives each one of us a job to give us dignity, to give us a means of making a living, but it can't be the be-all and end-all. Yeah. So it was a very simple decision. I resigned from HSBC. I remember walking into my senior vice president's office and gave him my letter of resignation. And it was right after the Victoria Day long weekend. I had given HSBC 6 weeks notice, June 30th, so that during the summer I could move up to Prince George so that we could be married. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So what did your senior, basically your boss, what did he say?
He said, I'm going to take out a contract on him. So anyways, it was, it was a choice, and it's the biblical choice, right?
Yeah, that's true.
It was the biblical
but nobody surrounding you is like, are you sure this is? You obviously have like a grade 1 here. Why don't you just continue? Nobody ever question you this kind of thing or say.
Oh sure. Oh, I remember. And okay, now I resigned, like I said, right after the long weekend. Victoria Day long weekend. And HSBC in finance, we always ran this huge fundraiser for BC Children's Hospital at the end of May. And our ombudsman was our retired CFO. And he said, I heard you were leaving. I said, yes, I am leaving. I'm leaving to get married, And I remember John saying to me, John Mould, who was our ombudsman, saying to me, but are you ready to leave? And I really couldn't. I looked at him and I said, I don't know if I'm ready to leave. But my husband is going to be in Prince George. That's where I need to be.
Now, after that, you have recently finished a position with the Archdiocese of Vancouver.
Yes.
Financially, I'm sure, private corporation will offer you greater rewards. What inspired you to take on this project? Besides, I'm sure someone asked you.
Jackie, so I had just finished the role. I've just finished my contract at the end of May with the Archdiocese of Vancouver as Director of Strategic Projects and the head of pension plan governance for Canada's 40th largest defined contribution plan. And it was really an opportunity and a grace to be able to serve the church of which I am a part. So how I came to that role was that there was an opening for controller back in 2020 with the Archdiocese. It was there was a vacancy in 2019. It was reposted in 2020. And it had to do with a bit of finance transformation, not to the same scale, nowhere near the same scale, HSBC, but for a very different program. But it was my church, it was my parish, and I felt very, very much called to be able to contribute and to serve, especially at that part of my career. Going from, I had just finished, my previous employer was Finning, and I was the global leader for management reporting, and in terms of comp in a private organization and a not-for-profit, yes, there's always differences. But I think it's really, one, my husband adores, loves, admires, respects Archbishop Michael Miller so much that he just saw it as a phenomenal opportunity for me to serve. And when we make career decisions, I don't make it by myself. I make it in conjunction with my husband, John. And I wanted to serve. John was very enthusiastic about our Archbishop and his mission, and I wanted to, and so together we decided that I was going to serve the church.
But essentially, you just want to serve. That is the key thing.
Everything that I've had, it's not my own. God gives us our innate talents.
Exactly.
And so what are you calling me to do, Lord, at this time? And we discerned it. We prayed about it. We had our we talked to our spiritual director about this opportunity before I applied for the job. And God had to say yes. My husband had to say yes. I had to say yes. The hiring committee had to say yes. So, when all of those things converge, okay, it's the will.
It's pretty sure.
It's the will of the Lord. Yeah.
But what has been the biggest challenge in this role? How have you overcome it?
Yeah. So I think, Jackie, the biggest challenge going, and I'm going to talk about the fact that going from for-profit into a not-for-profit in general. So in for-profit organizations, you have a lot of tools to incent your team. You have compensation levels are different. You have variable comp. You have profit-sharing plans, share options. All of those things I've had at my disposal at HSBC, at Northbridge, at Finning, right? At Columbia Containers. So all those tools are not available. So it means being able to inspire and lead a team in a very different way. It's different because the tools that all the tools that's on my tool set, how do I inspire? How do I help make that individual want to achieve the goal that we decide to set together as an organization, right? So the traditional tools that I was familiar with, it's like my saying to you, gee, Jackie, I'm going to take away the piano. How are you going to teach it? Right? So it's relearning, and there's a bit of relearning. Like I said earlier in our discussion, every day is a learning experience. So you trust the Lord. You trust that the people that you're working with in the church also come in there with the mission of service as well. Because I know I was so blessed to have worked with my colleagues at the Archdiocese of Vancouver, and so much dedication and so much love and desire for mission and service was so evident that while we could talk about, what's different, what is really the blessing and of being able to work in that environment is that you're so focused on mission, and everybody's mission, they know what their mission, mission is Jesus Christ, and how do you bring Jesus Christ to people, to the world, and in every aspect of your work. Now, I was in finance, I wasn't in ministry and outreach, but nonetheless, what we emphasize was everything that we do touches upon mission. right? Touches upon mission. And that's what we focus on. It wasn't a focus on I don't have the tools like in, variable comp and all that stuff, but let's focus on what we do have. And that focus and mission is so strong that it overcomes what the world or what the secular world sees as deficiencies.
Wow.
But it is personal sacrifice. The Lord asks each of us to make sacrifices in our life, as we follow him. And when I work with my very esteemed colleagues at the Archdiocese of Vancouver, our CFO could be taking on a different position in private enterprise, but he has made a choice. Our director of property infrastructure, an architect, right? He's made a choice to serve, right? And so even leaving, it was discerning whether, Lord, is this what you're calling me to do at this point? It wasn't just it wasn't just random. Yeah.
But would you say that is also why you find this rewarding? Why you find this experience really rewarding too, right?
Right. Oh, very much. To be able to serve no matter for how long or how short the Lord asks you to serve is always a grace, in whatever capacity He's asked you to serve. And to have worked with Archbishop Miller so closely and his team and my colleagues at the Archdiocese of Vancouver, it was a phenomenal experience. So one of the rich things. One of the richest experiences I've had was that not only did we have almost daily mass at the pastoral center where I work, but when someone passes away, when someone has a need, together as a team, we would pray. Together, we would enter into prayer, right? And so texts would fly through our phones sometimes. Somebody has a need. Somebody's child is in a car accident. We're there praying, and we united in prayer. Prayer is everything. It's foundational for everything. Yeah. So that was a huge grace to be able to do that, to be able to come together to do that in the workplace, right?
Wow. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And I imagine even have disagreement too, you will bring that to prayer and then you pray about even though have disagreement with each other.
Absolutely. We're human beings, right? We're flawed. We're human beings. And you resolve them. I mean, like yes, there's conflict, but there is also communion. The conflict, if you know your mission, and if your mission is stewardship because you have a mission and evangelization and Jesus Christ, you know what your underlying mission is. Well, everything else, if you have a disagreement, it might be disagreement on approach. It doesn't change the fact that your mission is mission. There's Jesus, right? Or if you have a stewardship responsibility, if we're trying to achieve an outcome in stewardship, is it saving money? This costs more money, but is it a better value than a lower price, right? Yeah. And it could be conflict, and you journey together through that conflict. Yeah. Wow. We're human beings.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
There's a lot of prayer, and there's a lot of I come knocking on your door asking for forgiveness. Yeah. Right?
Wow. But if looking back at all of that, well, you're still in it anyway. You just have a new project, as I know that, and you still practicing your profession in a sense, in the corporation world. But what would you say are the most important leadership lesson you have learned?
That's a hefty question.
Yeah, if you can find a few, is okay.
So I'm going to say there are a lot of leaders out there. There are a lot of people who have really effective leadership skills, but I only know of my own experience. So I'm going to tell you that in my life, I have been very blessed to have had the realities that I've had, which was the Lord placed me in a mailroom when I was 17, at HS or Bank of BC. And then I became a clerk. Then I became an accountant, then etc. So I've walked through every stage of a career in finance, from literally the bottom to a senior leadership position. So I think the experience that I've had, the greatest leadership lesson I have, is that I understand and respect every member of my team because I have walked in their shoes. I think that's the greatest lesson. The greatest lesson is that I know their pain, and and they teach me something every day about leading, because to lead, people have to follow.
Yes.
You can say, you can wave your hands and say, I've got the title. You have the formal, title to lead, but will people really follow, right? And it's really understanding. The greatest leadership lesson for me is understanding my team, what they're going through, and the pain points, and how do I remove those roadblocks for them so they could be effective in doing their job, in and out of the church, right? Doesn't matter. Like, it's a finance function, right? So if, for example, I was in a role where one of my payroll administrators, she had 2 union payrolls, and everything was manual. So what is it that I need to do to help her through that pain that she struggles with, right? And so understanding their pain, understanding their pain points, not when I say pain, I mean, like, what is stopping them in doing what they need to do, or what are their understanding their frustrations. And if you, as a leader, if you can understand and be empathetic towards your team, they will follow you to the ends of the earth.
Wow.
Yeah. I've been really blessed with phenomenal team members who've just, really rough times, and nope, we're hanging in there. Okay. It's like, oh my goodness. Yeah. People have such tremendous, this is the thing. I was about to mention a word, and the word is loyalty. Am I loyal to HSBC? No, I'm loyal to the people, the leader, the individuals who have created the opportunities. I still have relationship to them, with them, whether their business card reads HSBC or not. I mean, some of them have gone on to work for Commonwealth Insurance in Northbridge, and now they're retired, perhaps. But the loyalty is for that individual who have invested, right? It's not with an organization.
So when you reflect on your journey, how do you personally define success?
Doing God's will.
Doing
God's will. And sometimes I don't. And sometimes I don't. There have been times I don't, and I know it soon enough. And it's I think I'm going to use the example where, when I took on the role at I took on the role at the Archdiocese of Vancouver as controller, right? We really prayed about it. We discerned about it. All of my husband, myself, my spiritual director, everything, right? I did take on a role at another time in my career, Jackie, and it was because recruiters came, headhunters came, and they knocked on my door, and the paycheck was very, very lucrative. And I left for the paycheck, and it was the wrong reason. And at the end, like within 3 weeks, I gave my resignation. They wouldn't take it, but I gave my resignation. And 4 months later, I gave my resignation again, and they wouldn't take it. So I took on a project, finished the project, and almost 2 years later, I did leave that organization, but it was the wrong reason for taking the job. And the right reason is everything, right? And money is not always the right reason. So success, really, when you ask me what success is being able to use the gifts that I've been given to serve. To serve. And when I say to serve, it doesn't mean always necessarily church. Although, my husband and I are both involved in the church and serve in the church in certain ways, but it isn't always with the church, because evangelization happens. Our life is a gospel that we carry within ourselves, right? And so when we evangelize, we evangelize with our lives, the good, the bad, the failures, the shortcomings, because it's everything. And so whether I'm working inside the Archdiocese or inside the church, or whether I'm working in a secular organization, how I treat my colleagues, how I interact with my colleagues, how I see them as human beings and respect their dignity as a human person is in line with everything about the gospel values. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
And I don't do it right all the time. That's why the Lord has to have mercy, right?
But I think the key thing is you try,
We
right?
try.
You know, we all try. I think at the time, like what you said, right? We all have failure, but I think how we face those failures certainly say something about you, right? And certainly say something about the value that you hold and the hope that you have, right?
With God's grace. With God's grace. Always His grace.
Yeah. But I'm really debating when I ask you this question, because this is a really good time to end this, actually. This is a phenomenal answer you have. But in your career, how do you define success in your career? How do you know your career is successful?
It's job by job. Did I fulfill what I needed to do?
Yeah.
Like if I'm hired to do X, Y, Z, did I do X, Y, Z?
Yeah.
When I'm brought in to bring in governance reforms for a pension plan, was it done? Was it done successfully with least amount of conflict, with optimal results for everybody? Did all the stakeholders feel they were a part of the journey, right? I'm just one member of the team. Did everybody walk away or journey to a goal feeling good about what we've done together? It's that simple. Yeah. And I have to say that I've been very blessed to, I'll just use that example because it's the most recent big project that I worked on or worked through. We had a task force, we had a team, we brought in consultants, we had lawyers, we had accountants. Did everybody go through that journey, that 2.5, 3 year journey? Those people, the stakeholders, did the superintendent of Catholic schools feel that she got what she needed out of it, right? Did the school board, the CISVA, feel like they were part of the journey? How did our partners, like our lawyers and our accountants feel and our consultants feel as we moved through that journey? Did we accomplish everything that we set out to achieve, right?
So that's like essentially what would like define the success.
Yeah.
But all in all, thanks so much for your answer and
Jackie,
be here and talk about all of it. I truly feel inspired, really. And you have speak a lot of truth in, I think in one's career, actually. What is ultimately the goal, to work and to have dignity and all of that. But anyway, thanks so much.
Oh, Jackie, it's a pleasure. Thank you. I feel very unworthy, like I said, but praise God. He's given us this time together.
Yeah.
Thank you.